Hey everyone, Cody here. And as the title of this video suggests, our kids are worth fighting for. And what I mean by that is that there is a lot of external pressures on our kids to do things that are not in their best interest. There's a lot of pressure to fit in. There's a lot of pressure to kind of conform to these new standards that are being introduced by a lot of parties on the internet and even in our schools that don't have our kids' best interest in mind. They only have their own best interest in mind. And they want to, because they're in a state of depravity, they want to suck our kids into that as well. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean, there's a lot of pressures to do drugs, to have sex outside of marriage, to identify as a certain type of person. And I don't want to bash any particular groups. That's not the point of my video. But the point is that just because you have certain feelings of being a certain thing and other people around you identify as that thing, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are that thing or your children are that thing. But our children are being fed so many lies by so many different sources that we as parents, we have to be the shepherds to protect them. There are so many ravenous wolves out there that want to devour our children. And I mean spiritually. There's a lot of pressures to get our kids to conform physically and mentally, to basically shape our kids in their image. So I won't name drop any particular groups because, again, my goal is not to bash any particular set of people. But I also won't pretend that there isn't this movement of certain groups to force ideals and beliefs on our children to get them to think that they are something that they're not. As parents, we can pretend that it's not happening, or we can see the effects of it on our kids, and we can pretend like it's not that big a deal, or we can try to justify it in our mind and just kind of brush it off. But I see unfortunately a lot of instances of people who don't want to fight the fight. They just let this stuff happen and they let it affect their kids. They allow it to creep in, and they don't want to make those difficult choices to cut off the things that are slowly affecting their kids. And listen, I'm not saying that cutting out certain people of my kids' lives is easy. I'm not saying that cutting off certain devices or certain influences into my kids' lives is easy. That stuff is difficult. I've had to cut back certain things from my kids because I know that they enjoy it, and I know that their friends enjoy it, and I know that they have certain people that they really care about that are like, friends to them in their school or outside of school. But at the end of the day, those people are not responsible for your kids. You are, and I am. And, with our kids in particular, our youngest three, there's been a lot of challenges lately with our kids. And just a lot of the things that they're going through, I don't blame them for everything that they do. Like I do. I mean, they should accept responsibility, and I accept responsibility as their parent, and so does my wife. But at the same time, there's a lot of pressure on them by their friends, or by these social media influences, or by the media itself. The music they listen to, the videos they watch. There's a lot of just messages that are counterintuitive to God's message. And so we as parents have to make the choice, the difficult choice, to fight for our kids, to make those difficult decisions, to fight for them, to cut those influences off, to continuously reinstate the values that our kids need to hear. It's easy to complain about this generation and how selfish they are, or entitled, or lazy, or whatever. And I feel like a lot of people, especially people my age or older, I'm in my 30s, they say, well, kids nowadays, they just don't do anything, they're lazy, whatever. But I don't think that the whole issue is the kids themselves. I mean, it is, right? The kids make choices, of course, But the kids tend to react to the things that are going on in their life. And so if they have these negative influences in their lives, their friends or media or whatever, and we're the ones that aren't cutting those things out, then who's actually to blame? Is it the kids themselves, or is it the parents of the kids? It's us. We are to blame. We are at fault. We are the ones responsible for our own kids. And if we are not shepherding our kids properly, we're not making the difficult choices to cut certain things out, or to, to consistently reinstate like what our values are. What are your values for your kids? What core values do you have? What beliefs do you have that you want passed on, that you know are in the best interest for your kid, that are counter to what the world and the enemy says? Listen, this is a battle cry for parents. I am having to fight that fight. My wife and I are fighting that fight for our kids. We are up against a lot of things right now. People and media and beliefs. These beliefs that are getting pushed on our kids, that it's okay to do this or this other thing that wasn't okay 5, 10, 15 years ago. But now all of a sudden, in modern society, it's perfectly acceptable. Perfectly acceptable. I guess the point out of this is to try to spur parents to consider their stances on how they handle the influences on our kids. Are you stepping in and are you making the difficult choices to cut those things out? Are you stepping in and having those conversations with your kids saying, look, I understand that this is what your friends or the world or the media is telling you, but I disagree. And here's why. Give them a reason why. Are you instilling the beliefs and the core ideas that you want them to take away as adults that you feel like are going to benefit them? Are you telling them those things? Listen, if you allow social media and technology and their friends to raise your kids for you, then they're going to turn out just like the rest of the world. If you love your kids, you need to make these choices. I love my kids, and listen, I'm not saying it's easy to fight the fight. My wife and I have reached breaking points where we didn't want to fight anymore. We're tired of being the bad guys, because that's how it always feels, that my wife and I are just always the bad guy because we don't want our kids to do certain things because we know it's just ultimately not good for them. And people challenge us on this. Friends, family, outsiders. Oh, you're not going to let them do that? Wow, that's kind of rude. That's kind of mean. Don't you think you're not allowing them to experience life or, get that life experience? Their friends are doing it, so you're going to make them an outcast. This is the crap that we hear. And listen, I don't care. At the end of the day, I don't care because it's not their kids, it's mine. These are my kids. I am their shepherd, and I must lead them in a way everlasting. I must be the one looking out for them because the kids don't know any better. Do you really think that the kids understand or know what's best for them? No. We don't even as an adult, I still don't always understand. But I have a heck of a lot more life experience than a 16-year-old or a 10-year-old. I'm making this video for myself, as a reminder to myself that our kids are worth fighting for. Yes, we have to make difficult decisions, and we don't always want to do that. Yes, we have to make difficult decisions over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Yes, we have to make difficult decisions that are going to go against the grain of what people want for our own kids, of what society wants of our own kids, of what our kids' friends and our kids themselves want for our own kids. But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, can I look at my kids and say, look, everything I did was in your best interest. And I made those difficult choices because I love you. I don't know. I guess that's about it.